entrepreneur life is definitely super glorified at the moment. I had a little point where I was like, I just need a second to think. The salary that I got from the role when I started, it was peanuts. But I looked at the opportunity.
Mad.
I looked at the opportunity for travel and what they were going to be teaching me, right? The only way you find out what you're truly meant to be doing or you're good at or whatever is by trying and getting confidence in that thing. And I think the mistake that a lot of people, the mindset should be is that up front, we don't want to get to the stage at the very end when we're then having to justify, right? How do you get experience? You know, when they're asking for experience and you can't build experience, but...
Welcome to the Takeoff Experience, where I sit down with highly driven people to talk about their journey, their failures, and their successes. If you want to take off in your career, your business, your finances, or your mindset, then this podcast is for you. This episode is sponsored by MoneyHub, a secure money management app that helps you to manage your money with ease. The MoneyHub app provides you with a single view of all your accounts by letting you connect your bank accounts, your savings accounts, investment accounts, your credit cards, all in one place. To help with your money goals, MoneyHub has features that allows you to track your incomings versus your outgoings every single month, and also allows you to set and track your spending budgets every single month too. It's a fantastic app, right? Well, you can download the MoneyHub app for free by tapping the link in my description. You can use the MoneyHub app free for 6 months with no auto renewal. And if you really like the app, then you can continue using it for only £1.49 per month. It's a deal of the century, right? Well, make sure to go and download the app right now. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Welcome back to the Takeoff Experience. We have a special guest in the building, another repeat guest. Shay, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, like we were talking about it offline. It's been one of them days, right? Busy days, right? But you know, I'm glad to have you here. It's been almost 2 years since we had this conversation, right? You know what's crazy, right? Your episode had quite a big impact actually. I had somebody. So I went to an event last year, UK Black Business Week, and I had somebody come up to me and say, actually, they listened to the episode.
That's really nice. Yeah. That's nice to hear.
Do you know what I mean? Somebody you don't know. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, and this was, at this point, this was a year after we did the episode, and they remember. So I was like, okay.
That's
crazy.
a good thing about like these sorts of things. Like they live on forever. You don't know when they're going to impact people. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
Good
it's crazy.
Platform.
Yeah, thank you. So, since it's been a year, you know, I've actually changed it slightly, right? So, can you tell the people who you are?
Yeah, of course I can. So, name is Shay. What do I do? So, where would I even start this? So, I think I have 3 main things that keep me busy. I am a tech sales professional, and then I would say a multi-passionate business owner. So, on the one hand, I create content and online resources to help job seekers, and then on the other hand, completely different world is in the event space. So I run the UK's largest Black British pub quiz brand. We run events all around London, 300 to 400 people, and just having a great time answering questions about Black culture.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. So last time since we spoke, we didn't really touch on the pub quiz that you've done. How's that gone for yourself?
Yeah, do you know what? Out of the 3 things, I feel like they all hold like, I suppose, equal space. But that one, I used to say, I love running the business. It's no work. I still love running the business, but it absolutely is work. Like,
is it become work?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's a fully fledged, like, we have a team that help us. But yeah, it's amazing, honestly. And to do something that like, it's just so closely connected with like culture and just like, you know, people having a good time. Love it.
Wow. That's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay. I don't know if I don't remember if I asked you this question, but now how do you manage all of this? It's crazy because that business at that point, it was still fledgling. Now it seems to have grown a lot. I mean, getting 300, 400 people to an event is a lot of people, right? Yeah. So how do you manage that, jobs with Shay, and your career? And your personal life.
Exactly.
Real, right?
Yeah, keeping up with friends, all of that stuff. Okay, so I think first thing I probably would say is that I have to acknowledge that with my job comes a lot of like flexibility and freedom. So working in like tech sales means that, well, specifically for my role, I work remotely. And since I've been promoted recently, I can kind of manage my own time. Obviously, I still have to do a lot of work, but I have a lot of freedom over my time during the week.
Mm-hmm.
But saying that, I start work quite early. So obviously it's meant to be a 9 to 5. I would normally start at 8 and maybe sometimes finish up a little bit early.
Okay.
But really, I would say what it is, like with all the things that I'm doing, when I'm doing that work, that specific thing, I'm really in it. So I'm not like talking about it. I'm not like, oh yeah, this would be nice, and ideating. Is that a word? I don't know. But yeah, I'm not like,
idea is a word.
Yeah. I'm really just like in the work, undistracted, and just getting things done that's gonna like move it forward. So that's like the main thing. I think and what I used to do is like, oh yeah, I'll do a bit of like jobs of Shay stuff, and then I'll sneak in a bit of party here. Now it's like, no, everything has its own section in the day. So, you know, during my work day, I'm not touching party here stuff. I'm not touching jobs of Shay stuff, because that switch over takes up a lot of like space in my mind of like, oh, I need to do this. It consumes a lot of space is what I've realized. So I've basically just sectioned off these areas. But yeah, more practically in terms of what it looks like in the week, I think with Party Here, it's not a business I run alone. It's me and one of my closest friends who I met at university. Okay. And even though we, it's just the two of us, so we kind of have to, we deal with things according to our skill sets, but we cover everything. But I would say I basically allow her to do things that are more her strengths, and she also allows me to do things that are more my strengths. So it feels much easier than if we were to kind of, I don't know, just be fighting to do everything. Like we really we work really well together. It's approaching it's 4.5 years that we've been doing this now. So we've really, So we've been doing this for, every time I say that, I'm like,
that's crazy.
It's actually crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a balance. And then with Jobs with Shay, just outsourcing that business, it's still, I'm just trying to think of more ways to turn it into what I envision and create the life that I want out of that. But I think at the moment what suits me best is, writing, creating resources, but again, it being a passive income stream for me. So that really that required a lot of work up front. So I created ebooks and things like that, as we sort of touched on, courses at a time. But then it's just about getting those in front of people so that it's, a lot of work does go into it, but now those resources have been created. So now it's about, directing people to those resources so they feel that they have that support there, basically. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question.
No, you answered my question. You answered fantastic. And it's, you're doing a lot. So my other question, to you, and I think a lot of people would, I'm in this kind of boat as well, right? And I think many people will be wondering, why are you not doing like the typical quit your 9 to 5 and like focus on your business full time? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it, but I don't want to.
Okay.
It's like the first thing. So, there's so many ways I could answer this question. I think for me, I really enjoy my 9 to 5. I think a lot of people, the focus for them really for a 9 to 5 should be finding work that you feel like comes easy to you. Okay. Is also challenging. Yeah. And is in an industry that you care about. Yeah. Luckily, I've managed to find that for me. So for me, there's no real reason for me to go elsewhere and sort of look to get rid of that. Yeah. And I also think in terms of like the passion conversation, I would say both of my businesses definitely sit it for different reasons, within my passions. Okay. But I absolutely love doing them both, and I think they would look very different if my sole source of income were those two. Okay. And I think it would change the way I relate to those businesses. Yeah. So that's my personal reason. I think other than that as well, like I like a 9 to 5. Like I like the idea of like going to work, learning from a 9 to 5, learning from a company, learning from employees, and then using that for my own thing. Yeah. And I think as long as it's paying you, as long as it's teaching you and pouring back into you, I don't think there's anything I don't think there's anything wrong with like wanting to grow in your career. And I think also for a long time, sorry, this answer has so many parts, but for a long time, even at university, for example, I did a law degree, right? Okay. Which is nothing to do with what I do now.
I did a law degree, maths.
Yeah, literally. Did a law degree, and while I was doing that law degree, I also worked like 20 hours a week, just in like in a job as well. And I found that when I was working, it really made me that's actually probably why I'm doing okay with managing my time now, because it allowed me to think, okay, when I'm working, I need to be working. When I'm not working, I only have a specific amount of time to study. So it made me able to manage my time better. So what I'm trying to say is, if I had all the time, I don't think I'd be able to, like, I wouldn't prioritize as well as I'm doing now. It's because I only have certain amounts of time to get things done. I think I'm managing to, like, allocate that well, if that makes sense.
I do get what you're saying. It's like it's like the discipline, right, that you get from your 9 to 5. I think a lot of people don't really appreciate that as well. I was reading somebody's post. Somebody posted why they had a 9 to 5 in a business, and they were saying that it also helps them to be productive, which I think is very, very true.
Absolutely.
Because if you got that, it's not like forced, but I know a lot of our jobs are flexible. But if you got like, okay, every day you've got like a meeting, like I've got at work a meeting every day at 9:30, right? I'm forced to get up, do whatever I got to do, prepare for that meeting, have that meeting. And then you're already like up doing what you do, finish work, and then you're kind of almost ready to go and do the next thing, right? Rather than if you've got your own business, if you don't have the discipline, I think it's a bit tough to, get into it a little bit. Like
100%. It's a very different conversation of like being an entrepreneur and having that self-discipline. I think like great. I know a lot of people that do that, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. But I think if you don't need to, it's also okay to accept and like be happy with the fact that work provides that discipline for you, like you were saying. Because I think entrepreneur life is definitely super glorified at the moment, but it's very difficult. It's super difficult.
It's hella glorified.
So
I would definitely not recommend it on somebody who doesn't. Their heart's not in it.
Exactly.
One, you won't go the distance. Two, is sometimes you think to yourself, am I crazy for doing this? Sometimes I have their thoughts, am I mad? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? Like, mad. So what's been your biggest achievement, would you say, since 2021? It's 2 years now since then.
Biggest achievement. What's been my biggest achievement since 2021?
End of 2021.
Since end of 2021. Okay, I'll say. I suppose one, work-wise, I got a promotion. I think maybe two. When did I? No, one promotion since we last spoke.
Okay,
so
that's still good.
Which I'm really, really happy with. And then another one is the house purchase. So
okay,
I managed
amazing.
To buy a
Congratulations.
House Thank you so much. I kind of almost, I feel like, because I haven't moved in just yet, I'm doing renovations, but I feel like I kind of almost skip over the house purchase. Like, obviously I was over the moon, but I think because I haven't moved in yet, I almost forget. But that definitely, that's been a goal of mine for a long time. And the process took a long time. I was in the process for over a year and a half. I had a few properties fall through as well. So it was just a long journey. But that's something I'm really proud of.
Okay, amazing. No, you should be proud. Welcome to the homeowner club.
Yes, the mortgage.
It's nice. The mortgage, look, you got to keep that up, otherwise they take it away. But it's a big achievement, and celebrate it for real. Do you know what I mean? Like, why not, right? I feel like you should always celebrate your journeys, no matter how small they are. Just always celebrate it.
Always.
On the flip side, what's been the challenges, would you say, the last 2 years? Yeah, man, we gotta give them both sides of the story.
Let me think. I want to give a juicy one, but I'm challenges. Maybe, as much as I speak about like the balance between all of these businesses that I kind of have now, is still definitely a work in progress. Like, I think balancing two businesses and a demanding 9 to 5 is always going to come with its challenges. I'm trying to think if there's anything specific, but I think that's just an overarching like theme. And I actually, in November, I remember specifically, I had to just take some time off and be like, actually, I just want to chill for a little bit. Because literally, like we were just discussing, like, it's nice to just, you need space to be able to think.
You need space.
That's where that's where creativity comes from. That's where ideas come from. And I think I had a little point where I was like, I just need a second to think. So because even on the Party Here side of things, we've got a really, really big announcement that I can't even share at the minute. Man. But we were working on that. Like, we were just working on this big project for Party Here. And I think there was a point in like November, I was like, Lord, please, let me just, like, I just needed a second. So I would say, maybe it might be like a burnout, or I probably call it burnout. I know that's quite a buzzword, but I think that's probably what it was. And I felt that I was getting towards that point, so I just had to take a bit of a break. But I would say that that's probably like one of my biggest, that was the time it was most apparent that I was doing a lot of things and I needed to cool down before life forced me to cool down, basically.
Yeah. You know what? That's the thing, right? Like when you're so driven and you're doing so much, you know, burnout, like you said, sometimes a lot of us who wants to be burnout, right? None of us decide it, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, our body and mentality will just be like, nah. Yeah. I remember that happened to me literally after our conversation.
Wow.
Not after, not like straight after, but like actually, like I think after your episode, I had one other person, and then I paused the podcast. I was like, I'm doing too much. At that point, I remember, I was feeling burnt out, and I was also switching jobs, and I had 3 weeks off. And that 3 weeks, I actually planned that I was going to do content. I did no content. Yeah. I could physically, mentally, I couldn't do any content. I was just like, my head wasn't in it actually at that point. So so I feel you on that. It can creep on you. I wanted to know, like, so you mentioned that you went to you did law.
Yeah.
Did you when you finished, did you do a grad scheme?
No, I did. Was it called a grad scheme or graduate program? Yeah, it's like a 2-year graduate program. Right? Yeah, was the role I went into.
What was that in again?
It was like business consulting, I suppose.
Okay. Oh, you did consulting.
Yeah, it was kind of like a mix. So there was a mix of consulting businesses, which me personally, I think fresh graduates should have no business doing, because I think you need experience to consult. But anyway, that's a different conversation. I went into like a business consultant, and it kind of was a crossover between the law degree because it was AML and like regulation.
Okay.
So my role was like a mix between doing that and then actually like transitioned into like selling consultants into businesses. So that's when I got into like the sales side, and then I transitioned over into sales. Right. Yeah. Okay. So but initially it was like business consulting for niche banks, some larger banks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
No, that's not my bag. No, it was good because that was the role that took me to I lived in Luxembourg, New York, Dublin. Like I traveled quite a bit with work for that.
That was the one. Okay.
Yeah, that was how I got to do that.
Right.
But
that's mad.
The work itself, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just no.
Consultant's a bit. I'm in consulting now. It's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted, for sure.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Like,
and I do. The experience thing is interesting because that's what we're gonna talk a lot about. Yeah. Because I guess for most graduates, they don't have experience. If they weren't fortunate enough to do an internship or anything like that, getting their first job, it's always the hardest. That's the hardest
100%,
thing.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing.
First one.
So I guess, where do they start?
Fresh graduate.
Fresh graduate.
Yeah.
Right out of uni. Let's we can use an example, right? We can use one that's not so specific. Let's say, and a lot of people, I know we talked on the podcast about technology recently, and you work in tech sales. So say somebody did like a business degree, right? And they wanted to get into, I guess, the tech industry. What would you say is their starting point? Yeah.
Business degree and getting into tech sales, right? I would say starting point, if they have literally no experience, like didn't do any
they do no internships.
Okay.
And that's a lot of people, to be fair. That's 100%. A lot of people's realities. Yeah.
I think maybe the first thing they need to do is start small. So maybe I think before they need to build experience, basically. And obviously I think the reason why this is such a big thing is because how do you get experience with, when they're asking for experience and you can't build experience? But I think you need to start small and start somewhere, basically. So the first things I would look at are projects that you could take on yourself that no one has to give to you. And then the second thing I would look at is, depending on your situation, and I hate to advise people to do unpaid work, but some sort of like volunteering or working under somebody. So let me go back. So the first thing I mentioned was experience that you can create yourself, right? If you're looking to go into sales, and I think this is any industry where you don't have experience, right? they're not necessarily looking that you have done that specific thing before. They're looking for evidence that you can do so.
Okay.
So what you need to do is just provide that evidence. So, and if no one's going to give that to you, you need to give it to yourself. So ways that you can kind of create that stuff for yourself is basically, so an easy way, I'll give an example actually. So for example, if you see online, you see that there's a company and they're looking for customers, you can maybe reach out to them and say, oh, I've noticed that you're struggling in this area. What I'd love to do is maybe be your business development rep. I can do this for literally, you can create experience out of anything. I'll be your business development rep. What I'll do is I'll make X amount of calls, and you actually don't have to pay me, but only pay me when I land customers, for example. So that's it's just plug in the gap so that you can then use that story to be like, oh, actually, even if it was just for a month, what I did, you can just explain that then. So I took this client from 0 sales to X amount of sales in a couple of months, and that will be your experience. So that's experience that you create yourself. And then the other thing is, I mean, they're all kind of things that you create yourself. The other thing I mentioned was like volunteering. So I think the what I was saying before is that companies are simply looking for evidence that you can do the work, right? Because we've all had those companies that we've worked for where you and somebody are working alongside each other and maybe they're not pulling their weight, but you've both then got that 1 year of experience. But really, if that person's not pulling their weight, like, have they really gained that in-depth experience? So it really isn't about the length of time. It's really about the person themselves sitting in that seat. So the volunteering stuff that I'm talking about, that would simply be a case of you proving your value. And it's, again, I don't love suggesting that people work for free. However, you just need to prove yourself for a little while, because I think the best way, especially from a volunteer perspective, it's all about return on investment. As I mentioned, they want to know that you can do this role. If they're not paying, you can just use this as a time. Yes, you're not getting paid, but you're getting paid in experience. So you can volunteer to work alongside a CEO. You can volunteer to work alongside an organization. Anything that's to do with like either customer service, building relationships, anything like that, you can then use to later leverage, because you can turn that into like, you know, interactions, and then from that, if it's not you that's earning or getting the money, you were involved in those conversations, or at least you're exposed to that. So I would focus on those like low barrier to entry sort of customer success, maybe just volunteering alongside someone, as long as informal as that might be, you're still picking up skills, because it's those skills that you can then speak to later on. So that's what I'd recommend.
That makes sense. Actually, I've got a question to ask you based on that, because you got into business consulting with a law degree. How did you manage that?
So mine, funny enough,
that's the same kind of thing, right?
Exactly. So mine, funny enough, so as I mentioned, I worked in Vodafone while I was at university, and then I think a little bit after that as well. So Vodafone provided me two things. It provided me the sales experience that I used later on in my career, but it also actually provided me the person that told me about the company that I was going to work for. So somebody came in to renew their contract with us, and then we just got to talking about where they worked. They actually went to my previous university. They told me about the company, and at that point I'd come back from my year abroad, and it was my final year, and I was sort of thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Like, and then she just started speaking. She said, oh, I did a law degree. Now I'm doing financial regulation, doing a bit of consulting. And she was about to move abroad. I was like, oh, tell me about the company. So she literally told me. I said, that sounded great. I literally applied for that role. And I think I was quite lucky as a graduate, because I applied for that role. I had a few roles that I was sort of considering. I personally didn't actually do any internships. I think I had a little bit of experience in a few law firms, but nothing like super concrete. And also I knew I wanted to move away from law, so I was really inexperienced. And I had a few interviews, and that one was actually the lower paying one, but it gave me the opportunity to travel, and I just said yes to that basically. I think it's getting into that for me, it was just like luck that I found that lady that obviously kind of had a similar past to me, but also like leveraging my part-time experience to use on my CV to get that role.
Wow, that's so cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But it shows that it's possible, right? That you
100%.
can actually do it. You just gotta figure out what you're comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And figure out what's the best route to get there. I wanted to talk about a little bit about CVs, right? Because I think another thing that people struggle with, and I definitely, you know what? I say I definitely struggled, but on my CV I put all my jobs on there, right?
Okay.
I mean I'm a hustler, right? So I also worked at a phone shop.
Okay.
During uni. Where else did I work? I worked at a nightclub. Look, I worked at B&Q,
Wow.
Primark.
Wow.
I look.
Wow.
I've done a lot of the places you step into. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've probably worked there. So I use a lot of that. I use a lot of that experience and put that onto my CV. But I don't necessarily know if that helped me stand out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. I think maybe a combination of that and my masters, I think, helped me. So I guess my question is, obviously, if you don't have none of that, obviously you don't have a master, you just finished in uni.
Yeah.
What can you? I guess I know this is a very general question, but what can you do or add to your CV to make yourself stand out?
Yeah. Okay. As from a graduate perspective, if there's someone with very little experience, the first thing I would look at would be that top summary statement, because even though you might have a lot of experience, I think some of the time what replaces that experience is your passion and your ability to bring new and fresh ideas. So that's the first thing that I would say. So that I know a lot of people skip out on this, but as a graduate, you definitely need it, because there's not much else that's on that CV. So you better use that sort of top part. So that summary section, you want to say something like, it has to be in line with the job description that you're going for, first of all. So I can give an example, but again, if this is not the style of wording that's in that job description, then there's no point. You need to have a job description that you're working from to sort of amend that summary section. But it should be like an innovative, strategic graduate with a knack for helping brands XYZ, and that will be that XYZ would be what that brand is asking you to do. And then the next part, you want to say an achievement from during your degree. So whether that's a society that you joined, whether that's like a top grade that you got. So you want to then say one of my key achievements being. And then it could even be like, oh, you wrote a dissertation, and that dissertation topic applies to what you're applying for as a graduate. And then you want to say, for my next steps, I am looking to work out, or I'm looking to help a brand do X, Y, Z. So it's not necessarily like, even that small thing that I've done, I haven't necessarily mentioned any experience because this person doesn't have any, but I'm talking about an achievement from within my university. I'm calling myself innovative. I'm calling myself energetic. All of these things that people find valuable about graduates over someone with experience. They're coming with ideas. They're coming with energy. So that's what you need to basically play on. And then as long as you're specific, so that last sentence, I'm looking to leverage my skills from my degree in again, this is to do with the job description, leverage my skills at a startup in the beauty industry. So what I'm doing is I'm using those words from the job description to basically show that I'm looking for a role specifically there. So that's the first thing I would do.
Okay.
For
that's just the first.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Crazy.
Like it's just the summary part.
Mad.
And then in terms of the actual content, because obviously a CV is all about your experience, right? If you don't have much of that experience, again, you need to collect some voluntary experience. If you haven't done that, and we're talking things that you can do straight away, we're looking at deep diving into projects. So you write down your university as the sort of the place of experience, I suppose, and then the job title would be, you just put in there project, and that's when you either talk about like, have you done like presentations at uni, for example, and then maybe you pull on things like, oh, okay, I managed a group of 5, we delivered this presentation, we got X amount of marks, right? You just need to build on what you do have. Other things that you could do, as I mentioned, societies, I've said volunteer work. There's another really big thing is just courses. So with the courses that you take, you don't just want to list them out. You want to explain what you learnt from them, right? So what that will allow you to do is use keywords from the job description, so you're able to be found. So you can then say, from this Microsoft Excel course, I learned X, Y, and Z. Last thing I mentioned on CV is projects. So if you want to, let me think of a good area to use an example. Maybe project management, for example. You need to like get examples of you managing projects. This could literally be anything. Even if you're applying for like a data analyst course, there are so many courses or projects that you could create for yourself. So you could with data analyst, it's actually like, there's data everywhere. So have a look at the fields that you want to go in and build something of your own and use that as experience on your CV. Again, there's so many things you could do. You could start to write. And I think this is a really good one to show how eager you are, because if you have no experience, the best thing you can do is show that you want to work in this industry and show passion. So I would start writing. That's a massive thing, or writing or producing content. So getting out there, getting your work out there, that's going to show that you really care about the industry. So yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
So
many gems, man. So many. Wow. I can't even dissect all of that. But the last thing you said is amazing, because we have social media now.
Yeah.
We have even things like Medium, right? Where people write all their own articles. They even get paid to do that. You can create your... Medium is basically like creating your own blog, really, without having to like do the hosting and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
You got Twitter, where you do a lot of your work on there too. You got Instagram, you got TikTok. You got so many free platforms that you can, like you said, where you can show that you're interested in the area that you want to go into. That's a gem. Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing I used to do, right, when I was applying to graduate jobs, graduate schemes, I'm sure a lot of people did this. I used to apply to as many as I could. I was so indiscriminate. I didn't care what and where, right? So for me, I was focusing on quantity over quality. But you mentioned something very important where you were talking about your CV summary should be in relation to what you're applying to. So I guess the question is what approach should a graduate take? Should they try and do the whole numbers game, quantity versus quality, or should they try to focus on getting a few?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a really important one as well. My advice for this always really stays the same. It doesn't change on whether you're a graduate or whether you're like mid-career or senior. I always think an approach where you are specific, targeted, and focus on speaking to the needs of your potential employer is going to work out best for you. So, I'd say definitely quality over quantity, even though that's not the answer that a lot of people want to hear. But I think it's the best use of time, because believe it or not, applying to hundreds of roles with the same CV or just a couple with a targeted CV, that latter approach is the better return on investment. It's the better return for your time. And then also you get to choose, what company gets to be next in your career. You're not just like spreading out your CV and then crossing your fingers. And I think that's what most graduates do. But that's the thing. If everybody does it, there's a case to be made that, if everybody's doing the same thing, it's probably just easy for everybody to do. So I'd always advise to be on the side of doing what less candidates do, but then at the latter end being able to choose, I suppose, and getting that choice of companies that you say, okay, I like their work culture, I like the way they treat graduates, I like what they stand for, and I can actually do the work. I think that's much better.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, noted. I think I agree with the whole quality over quantity.
Yeah.
I think, what I've realized, the more experienced I've become, the less roles I apply to. That's what I realized. I don't, before, maybe as a graduate it would have been probably 30 to 50 jobs. Now the experience, not that I've but before my recent role, a few. Actually, no, I didn't even apply. I got headhunted for my recent role. I forgot that. I got headhunted for my recent role. So it starts diminishing, because you start becoming a bit more specialized in what you're doing. So your CV is almost already tailored for, I guess it's only different if there's a few different responsibilities. So another tricky thing for graduates is, and not even just graduates, even people switching roles, they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know, right? And especially I feel really bad for graduates, because they think they want to do one thing and then they realize they don't like that degree, like us, which we studied law. And I was in the same boat. I was like, okay, I want to get into technology, but I didn't know exactly what in technology I wanted to do. I mean, there's hundreds of roles, right? So I guess my question to you is, how can somebody figure out how to find the role that they think they want? I know that's a tough question.
Okay, so there's 2 ways I would probably go about this. The first is speaking with people, and then the second is trying and failing. So I'll need you to remind me of the second thing I said. But yeah, the first thing is speaking with people. So that the best way to understand what is out there is by speaking to people that do it already. Because as a graduate, you literally have no idea. Like, I didn't know what a national account manager was. I didn't know what a project manager was. I feel like as a student, you just have no idea of the concept of like how many different roles there are out there. So with that, like, you can't go into anything blind, and I think you're automatically at a disadvantage because you can't really speak to anything with any accuracy. So I would say you need to find at least maybe just a few people, and I think a good place to start is like listening to podcasts or going on YouTube and just typing in like a day in the life of a blah blah blah, just these sorts of roles that you kind of have heard of, but you're like, what does that even mean? So day in the life of a project manager, day in the life of a national account manager, day in the life of a data analyst, day in the life of a marketing manager, all of those things. Have a look. Are they doing things that you think, oh, I could actually do that with my day? Oh, that seems that I could work on that, or I'd be good at that, or I need to maybe improve on some skills to get there, but I would still be great. Just have a look. And then the step on from that is, once you've sort of done that initial research, head over to LinkedIn, type in, search for some people. I would start with your current connections. And then, maybe I would say with your current connections, what you should do is just ask them and say, people are very busy, right? So what you want to say is not that I don't know what to do with my time. Can you give me an hour of your time? No, people are busy. They're not going to reply to you. What you need to say is make it about them. So you just want to say, hey, I've had a look at your profile and actually your background looks really, really interesting. I'd love to ask you some questions about your journey, because you're then focusing on them. And everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? So then you have access to their journey. You can ask them what their day looks like. You can ask them how they got there. And then following on from that, I think what usually happens is, if it goes positive, you're like, okay, yeah, thanks, I'm going to do this now. If it goes negative, you don't reach out to them again. But I think what makes it more worth it is if you make that process continual. So if it does go well, you're like, oh, that sounds amazing. And then when you get some results from that, go back to them and say, thank you so much. You were the reason that I got here. Or even if you do like it, you can say, there's another person, or is there anyone else that you advise I speak to? Because yes, this does sound really, really interesting. If it goes negatively and you're like, actually, I don't want to spend my time doing that. And then you can say that to them. You can say, okay, do you know what? That was really, really insightful. However, I don't think I'd be very good, or I don't think this fits with my skills. Yeah. Is there anything? So these are my skills. Is there any career paths that you would guide me towards, basically, or you think that would be better suited? So definitely the speaking to people would be my first thing. And then the second thing I mentioned, which was... No, it's fine. The second thing I mentioned, which was trying and failing.
Yes, that was
there
it.
You go.
I thought I was wrong. I was like, wait, she said failure, huh?
Yeah, trying and failing.
Okay,
so,
cool.
No, it's fine.
It was that. Okay.
So yeah, the second thing I mentioned, which was trying and failing, which is basically, it's better to just move forward than to stay still.
Yeah.
And I think the only way you find out what you're truly meant to be doing, or you're good at, or whatever, is by trying and getting confidence in that thing. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make, graduates included, is that they just get this paralysis of like, oh, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And they're like, well, I'll just either stay in this part-time role, or I'll stay stuck and not do anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's much, much better to just move forward and try something. If you don't like it and if you fail, you haven't taken a step back. You've still taken a step forward, because you've managed to cross something off and you now know this is not something I want to do. Before that moment in time, you had no idea if you were going to do it, and it's probably going to linger over you for a long time, and you might think, oh, maybe I'll do it. Now you know you don't want to do that. So you can cross that off and move to the next thing. That's absolutely fine. So yeah, reaching out to people and trying and failing is what I'd recommend.
That's amazing. amazing tips. And as you said what you said, it's funny you say that, because I actually had somebody recently. It's so crazy, like how all of this stuff links. So we're talking about this, but then yesterday, another guest that I had on the podcast, Mary, she works in the fintech industry, so fintech sales, right? She was talking about experience, and somebody actually added her on LinkedIn because they had listened to our podcast, and they used your approach of what you said, which is so interesting. That this is the industry I want to come into. I heard you on the podcast, and I want to get to know. I really love your insight. So it's crazy. It
works.
It's mad.
It honestly works, and I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm bugging that person, or they won't have time for me. Look, if they don't have time for you, that's fine. Move on to someone else. But also, it's a compliment to be part of someone's career journey. And when people reach out to you and want your help, I think most people are quite flattered by that. So as long as you're quite direct and you're not like, oh, I have some questions to ask you, ... And, don't create extra work for people. Be proactive, but be resilient as well. Like, don't just stop because you don't get a few replies. It's fine, but most people will be willing to help.
100%. I've helped a few people. I'm actually mentoring someone right now to get their job into the tech industry. I've also helped people like that want to get into becoming a business analyst. I actually got a request like recently as well. So we're always happy to help. I think I think 100%. Nobody's gonna really say no to it, right? The other question I had for you, right? I'm trying to remember if I did this. I think I went to a few career events. I think they still happen now. But I feel like a lot of us are still used to just applying online, and they kind of forget actually some of the best ways to get a role is by meeting people in person. What I guess what your thoughts of like the career events, networking events? Do you think they're useful?
I absolutely. Super, super valuable. I think if not just for the opportunities that are being brought to you, I think also for just being around people that are in a similar boat. Understand. I think there's, speaking to somebody face to face, you can't replace it. There's so much value that you can get from face to face conversation that you just can't find online. And I think the benefits of networking are twofold. I think firstly, it allows you to build long-term relationships because it's not just for that next job, it's for your career, those relationships. And someone might be like, oh, I met this amazing person and da-da-da. And I think also the benefit of networking as well is when I think about the people that help you with your next step, they're not like your direct friends in my experience. They're the people that are just outside of that circle. So someone you met through someone, or someone that I know this person that would be good at that. So it's those outer tier people that help you. Do you know what I mean?
It's mad, right?
So literally. So I think that's the benefit. You just meet people and they're like, oh, you tell them what you're looking for. If I hear of a role, I'll be like, oh, I met someone that's into that. Maybe I can connect you. And that's how life works. And then, sorry, I said two things. I always do this and I always forget. I think the other thing I was going to say about networking, it's more the direct, access to referrals. So obviously if you're going to a career event, you can see what's out there. You can actually understand, do I like the sound of this job? Is this something I want to do? And then get referred in, or literally just get direct access to like hiring managers, decision makers. And that again is priceless.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And this is one of those kind of situations, because if you tell me I have to go to a networking event, I'll tell you right now, even now I'll say it's cringe. Even for my business, I'm like, it's cringe. But I know I have to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know the number one thing that graduates are trying to do is they obviously want to meet people that are going to remember them and that are going to not interview them, but invite them for an interview. So I guess from that perspective, what's like the best way for them to stand out? Should they be doing some research before they get there so that they have like a little bit of like an elevator pitch, I guess? Is that something that they should be doing? Or should they just, free flow?
Just free flow, just see what happens. Yeah, that's true. I think it depends on the type of person you are. But for me, I find strength in just preparing and practicing for everything. So if you're someone that's an introvert or someone that's quite nervous, I would say definitely do that, because even as an extrovert, I always practice and prepare. But I think, in fact, for everybody, practice and prepare. I think things that you should prepare: your elevator pitch, as you said, who you are, who you help, and what type of role you're looking for. I think those are the things that you should know. And then I think, networking events, it can be super overwhelming because there's loads of people there. and you're like, oh, who should I speak to? I think maybe if you know in advance who's going to be there, maybe on a panel or whatever that might be, just have a bit of understanding of their background and have an understanding of what they do and who you're going to be speaking to, just so that you could speak to their experience. Because if I went out and I met someone and someone came up to me and said, oh, like, I know that you work at this place and I've been following you online and I saw that you posted this specific thing, I'm going to remember them more so than anyone else that's been like, oh, so what do you do and how do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're better off being prepared. And then, yeah, I think, yeah, I would go on the prepare side, prepare who you're going to speak to. And I think maybe just tips for networking in general within those events or careers events or whatever. I think go on and speak to somebody. Go and speak to somebody that's in the same position as you. So if you see somebody that's maybe also come alone and they're a graduate, go and speak to them so that you're kind of two people up, and you give each other a bit of a confidence boost. And then another thing is, I think sometimes networking and those sort of conversations can be a little bit cringy. So I think a nice thing to lean on is maybe just going over, saying what you want to say, and you're not asking for a job right then and there. You're just sharing information basically. You're just having a conversation and taking a genuine interest in someone. But when that conversation then is dragging on, I think it's or not even dragging on, when you're prepared for it to be like a couple of minutes of an exchange, if you just say to them, look, I know, loads of people want to probably speak to you, or I know you didn't just come here to speak to me, let's connect and we'll catch up later. I think that's a nice way, if you go in knowing that you've got that kind of to lean on, to then exit the conversation again. You're not trapped there for ages, and you know that it's just like a quick, you're just giving them a quick hello and a quick connection basically.
Amazing. So prepare people. You got to do that. It's very, very important. Like you said, you don't want to be some meh. Like, you don't want that. It's not gonna make you look good. And it's hard work at the end of the day, right? We're saying all of this stuff, but it is hard work. And I guess you have to realize, especially like as a graduate with no experience, the competition's wild. You're competing with everybody, and there's going to be some people who will do that because look, they're willing, right? Because look, they want to get their own place, or they want to contribute to rent, or they want to buy something or whatever, right? There's going to be people that driven. So unfortunately, this is what you got to do.
The game's the game,
right? The game's the game. Another thing that I realized when I was leaving uni was the obsession with grad schemes. You got to apply to grad scheme. But people often forget there's other routes that you can take. Can you talk to us a little bit about those alternative routes that you can still get into a company and still launch your career?
I think definitely grad schemes are super valuable. I think because of the structure and because of their understanding of like what a graduate needs to get into the working world basically. Saying that, there are so many other routes into like corporate experience. So going for an alternative graduate program, going for an actual just a usual role, I think as long as they have the understanding that you are coming from a graduate background, you can get that same level of support and expertise from those regular roles. I think also like post-grad internships that you can go for, which are really, really helpful, because again, more so at that stage of like graduation, right? You're really trying to get the groundwork to lay the foundations for the rest of your career. And I would say at that stage, what's much more important, I think, as I mentioned, the salary that I got from the role when I started, it was peanuts. But I looked at the opportunity. I looked at the opportunity for travel and what they were going to be teaching me, right? So I think at that point, when you're starting from scratch, have a look at what you're going to be learning and who you're going to be working under. So because the alternative routes essentially are usual, just going into regular work, but just making sure that the management and the type of company are ones that prioritize learning and growth. I think that's like the most important thing that you can do.
I completely agree. It's not about the salary, like you said. You're learning your growth, because you could just leave the company and double your salary.
Exactly.
It's very, if you get a decent salary out of uni and you're not learning anything, it's going to be hard for you to jump.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
That's underrated advice.
I know. I think there's a lot of like glorification of, I graduated and I got 40K,
Yeah.
That's great. But actually, I would much rather, if I was in the hiring seat for that next stage, and these two candidates were in front of me, and one had a grad scheme and one just went to a regular role, or one went to like a really I don't know, hands-on opportunity, right? That wasn't the shiny grad scheme. I want the one with more experience, and I want the one that's more competent. And sometimes these grad schemes, you know, or sometimes alternatively, these roles that you land in are the ones where you have to be scrappy and you have to like, you're learning as you go and you get loads of responsibilities. Like a startup, for example, just these non-conventional routes. Early on in your career, it's about the experience, because, you know, I speak a lot about how to position yourself to get noticed, but the easiest conversations I have when I'm teaching people are those that have done the work, so they have the results to speak to.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. This one is a tough one because
goodness, yeah, they're just
no, it's a tough one
all the
because
tough
you know
questions.
I am. Look, because I know you can answer them. I know you can handle them. So this one, I think, is one where we all, and this is not graduates. This is people in careers already. Maybe somebody who's got, let's say, 10 years experience, but then they're like, you know, I want to transition industries. I've been a lawyer for 10 years. I'm not fulfilled. I want to go into finance, financial services or whatever, right? But I don't want to take a pay cut. That's always the dilemma. I don't want to take a pay cut, blah, blah, blah. So I guess my question to you on that is, how can somebody position themselves? It may not be possible, but what's the best way for them to position themselves to be able to justify, okay, yes, I don't have experience in financial services, but I am bringing all this experience from my legal career.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's why I want to justify X, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in order to justify at the end, because these salary conversations usually come at the very end, right?
Yeah.
So, and it, you know, in order to justify, that means you're kind of being asked why you need that salary, right? So that means you haven't painted a picture early on enough of why you deserve that salary.
Okay.
So I think what the mindset should be is that up front, we don't want to get to the stage at the very end when we're then having to justify, right? We want to come from the very beginning as not as a career changer or, oh, I don't have the experience. It's that what does my 10 years of experience in, what did you say again? Was it law?
Legal,
yeah. What does my 10 years of experience in legal bring to the table, and how is this beneficial and not a loss at that stage, like at that latter stage? So it shouldn't be a matter of justifying, but I can definitely understand why this happens to a lot of people. So I think, the work is basically done up front, so you don't have to do that. What does that look like practically? Is painting those pictures of, okay, I've worked in legal, but I'm trying to move over. Again, what are the transferable skills? I know this is a buzzword, right? But what are the transferable skills that it takes for me to move over? I think this happens in a lot of places, but you kind of basically need to do the work. You need to do the work to uncover those transferable skills. For legal, transitioning into
financial services.
I mean, that one, it depends on what area of financial services. In my mind, it seems quite of an easy move just because legal into financial services. It's quite, you know, you're speaking with people, you're speaking with clients, you're dealing with regulation. There's a lot of parallels that you can draw. That some of them, there will be very upfront in the parallels that you can draw, but the question you need to answer is, what are the themes that I can take from my current career and how are they applicable and valuable to the place that I want to go? That's the question, and you need to just have evidence of that. It takes a lot of work, but you need to have that. You need to be able to just reel them off instantly. That's how you're going to get there. And I think once your CV is kind of picked up, I think a lot of the work is done in the conversations that you're having during the interview stage, so that they don't then say, oh, you know, we're hiring somebody with zero experience, let's pay them less. You need to go in as a consultant with that mindset. Like I call, like, you know, when you're the job process, I refer to it as consulting, because you're trying to find out the problems and trying to solve them. So you're basically going in and uncovering the issue. So a lot of your questioning needs to be down the line of, oh, I've had this idea, or coming from my experience, I maybe look at things a little bit different. This is the idea I've had, or this is the way I'm looking at this. How is your firm resolving these sorts of issues? So it's very consultative, and it's you're not coming in as a newbie, you're coming in as someone with a different perspective. And I think, again, practically, there's a question that I really like for people that are coming in with little experience or maybe different experience is just basically biting the bullet. And you need to say, so, maybe you faced a lot of rejection, right? And you're moving from legal over to finance is what we said. So you want to say something like, I've been having a lot of conversations, I'm putting my cards on the table. I'm moving over from legal into finance. A lot of employers I'm speaking to at the minute, they have an issue with that. Why hasn't that been an issue for you? That's what you want to ask that employer, so that then they're like, they give you the answer as to why they haven't found an issue with you transitioning over.
Right,
so when it comes to the salary conversation, they can't then go, oh, but you came from a different background. We're not going to pay you that much. That doesn't happen because you've justified why you're sitting there, and they've justified why you're sitting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
Hey, gems. I see. This is just like the first episode. Crazy. And I love the fact that you broke down all the details. And you know what's so crazy about work, right? It's like you said, a lot of these skills are transferable.
Yeah.
Law and financial services, the difference is the subject matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you can pick up, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of lawyers have to speak to several people in financial services. Unless you're working on the back end, you're gonna have your key stakeholders that you're communicating with.
Yeah.
Maybe you're managing a project. Law, you're also managing a project, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're managing a case. A lot of people don't think of it like that, but that's what it is, right? You have your you'll have your case dates. Maybe you'll have some kind of hearing. You have to put your points right. Okay, I need to prepare this for then. I need to do this and that. I need to go and speak to this person about that. So a lot of these skills are relatable, but a lot of people don't realize it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming down, blessing us with your presence again.
Oh, good. Anytime.
Awesome. Amazing. I mean, like we're not going to leave it for 2 years though.
Yeah,
that's
not.
Yeah, we got to do it every year. So yeah, what do you have planned next for yourself?
Oh, good question. I think, what is planned next for myself? I think I'm sort of making a decision as well, because my advice a lot of the time is think about the life that you want to build.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of that. So whether I want to go into like sales leadership, I'm having to think about, which I can really see myself in. And I'd love to be like great representation for like Black women in sales leadership in the UK. That would be great. I think business is in my blood. So I'm going to just keep going with Party Here, the quiz business that I spoke to, just see how big we can take that.
Yeah.
And Jobs with Shay, I think it's as long as I'm providing value, I'm going to keep going. So that one is just, that's as well going to go as big as I can take it as well. So yeah, lots. I'm going to just carry on being as busy as ever. Yeah.
I look forward to hearing about this in a year's time.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we need to do an episode on Party Here. But we'll do it when you're ready, because I think I promised you that last time.
Yeah, but
I was like, actually, the career,
time.
I did, but I didn't, didn't get around to doing that.
No, I have to get my co-owner on that one as well. So
we could, because that would be quite very, very, very interesting starting. I think I was saying that at the time. That's so cool. Like, wow, that's amazing. Where can people find you?
Yeah, okay. So for the job stuff that we've been speaking about today, everywhere I share information is basically on Twitter. So it's Jobs with Shay on Twitter. I share threads daily now almost.
Wow.
Yeah. And then for Party Here, the Black British Pub Quiz, we are on Instagram. So PRTYHERE. And then if you just want to follow me like personally, it's Shay. I think either my Instagram is Shay Lokes or Shay Loko.
You changed it?
I just can never remember, because my friends call me Shay Lokes, but I'm like, is that my Instagram? I think it's Shay Loko, SHAYLOKO, and I'm renovating a property, so I'm kind of trying to update everyone on how that's going, which is fun. So if you want to catch up with that, follow me on there.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have a property series too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, it's been a really good conversation. Like I said, we can't leave it to 2 years.
No,
I knew you was gonna drop gems. I knew. That's why I was like, we gotta get you, because you know what? I think I didn't appreciate, and I think you could probably agree with this. I think as we grow in our careers, as we grow in our business, we kind of forget like where we started from and the struggle. And I was like, oh gosh, there's this whole group of people that are starting, they want to get their jobs for the first time and they don't know where to start. Do you know what I'm saying? I was like, have we not covered that? We're just, you know what I mean? So you were the right person for it, and you duly delivered. No, it's been an amazing conversation. Do you have any final words for the listeners and watchers?
Listeners and watchers, I think just on what you've just said, I think it's a good reminder. I think for anyone that's a current graduate or anyone that's just trying to transition from, where they are into a new industry, things are absolutely going to get better. You're going to be in a place at one point where you're going to be in your dream career. So I think at this moment, just give yourself some patience, give yourself the freedom to explore career opportunities, have conversations, let people know exactly the type of industry that you want to go to. Reach out to people to help you, because it's a very isolating, very lonely thing. Looking for a new job, it can be very confusing. But yeah, just keep the faith, because it's not always going to be like this. You're not going to be looking for a job forever. Things are going to get better. So you want to be able to look back on this period and be like, yeah, I really, I had the confidence and I made it through. So yeah, that's what I want to say.
Amazing. You see, look, hey, I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the final words is almost always the best part of the podcast, because it's so inspiring. It's so, I feel like it gets people like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. That was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank
really
you.
Appreciate you
this has been
coming
really
down.
Fun, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation, and definitely we'll get you on again soon. Watchers, listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Take Off Experience, and we'll see you next week's episode.